The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my show, The Right Side. Doug Billings here with you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. Thanks for joining me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cut through the noise and deliver, as usual, unfiltered truth here, some analysis that you're not going to find anywhere in the mainstream media. That's for darn sure. They're not going to touch this topic with a 10-foot pole. Today, I've got a story that's going to make your blood boil, or at least it should. A classic example of the swamp establishment using the system, and we are left then holding the bag. If you're tired of the swamp, tired of the establishment in Washington, D.C., lining their pockets while the rest of us play by the rules, wait till you hear what I'm about to tell you. I'm going to go further into the announcement about the retirement of Nancy Pelosi. She's the queen of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, ladies and gentlemen, one of its top members of its hierarchy. And she has made a jaw-dropping fortune while she's been in Congress. There are bombshell reports coming out, Fox News among them and others, based on data that was compiled by the New York Post and an organization called Quiver Quantitative. Nancy Pelosi and husband Paul have raked in more than $130 million in stock profits over the course of her 40 years in Congress. You heard me right. $130 million in 40 years, ladies and gentlemen. And get this, that is a staggering, because people ask about what's the return on investment in that period of time. Because 130 million is 130 million, right? Right. So what is the percentage of her return on investment? You better be sitting down. Her rate of return is 16,930%.
A return of investment of 16,930%.
I'll say it again. 16,930% return on her investments since she slithered into office back in 1987. Ladies and gentlemen, to put that in perspective, the Dow Jones Industrial, you know, the benchmark for the stock market that uses us or regular folks that relies on it, that we look to every week or every day to see if it's high or low, and we go, whatever, it's not my world. The Dow Jones Industrial, in the same amount of time as Nancy Pelosi has earned a 16,930% return on her investment, the Dow Jones has only made about 2,300% return in the same period of time. So the Pelosi's portfolio didn't just beat the market, it obliterated it. And I'm talking returns that would make Warren Buffett or Elon Musk blush here. Before she entered Congress, my friends, she reported about between 610,000 and 785,000 in stocks. Okay, it's no secret that wealthy people get into elected office. All right, she invested in some common stuff like Citibank and a few other things and older companies that most of them, in fact, aren't even traded any longer. Fast forward to today, and their portfolio is worth $133.7 million, pushing their total net worth to $280 million. My friends, that's not the American dream. That's the Washington insider's wet dream, maybe, but it's certainly not the American dream that you and I are allowed to participate in. And just this week, at the ripe old age of 85, Nancy Pelosi announced that she's hanging up her gavel, or whatever she uses to bang down on the conservative ideals over there in her office, and she's not going to seek re-election after her current term ends in 2027. Yes, I know. Songs of The Wicked Witch is Dead start playing in most of our. I know. But she puts out this flowery statement, right? Did you catch this? There's been no greater honor than for me to stand on the House floor and say, I speak for the people of San Francisco. Oh, please. Right. Like, speak for the people. Right. Right. Folks, the only people that she's been speaking for are big tech moguls, the Wall Street fat cats out there, and apparently her own stockbroker. She even goes so far as to quote St. Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Right. Take it from a Catholic who's a real Catholic. Nancy is no real Catholic, ladies and gentlemen. If peace means profiting off of policies that she helped create, while the rest of America struggles with inflation, economic chaos, and the ruin of economies that her party perpetuate and create, then sure, yeah, right, she's a regular saint, all right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you the conservative analysis and the information that you tune in for right here. You're not going to hear this on CNN, believe me. You're not going to hear about it on MSNBC, where they're probably spinning this as some sort of, well, isn't she just a brilliant investor? Isn't she marvelous? Didn't she really have her finger on the pulse of the market? Right. Or some other feminist empowering tale that they regale themselves with over there in the liberal media. No way, folks. This is insider trading, plain and simple, and it's dressed up as congressional privilege. That's what it is. Think about it. Pelosi has been at the helm of the House during some of the biggest economic upheavals in modern history. The 2008 financial crisis, the COVID lockdowns that she implemented but refused to obey, and the tech boom. And at the same time, her family's trades in the market have seemed to magically align with upcoming legislation or market-shifting events. Things that make you go, There's this thing called the Stock Act. Remember it back in 2012? It was supposed to crack down on congressional insider trading. The trading that Pelosi engaged upon is astronomical. She herself dragged her feet on that legislation for years, only to see it get watered down and basically be a toothless piece of legislation. And even now, members of Congress can trade stocks with information the public does not have. I mean, did you know that? Chances are that you didn't. Now, you may have suspected insider trading, but I bet you there's a lot of people who didn't know. They get information that we don't, and they're allowed to make stock trades based on that information. If you and I did that, we would be in handcuffs in jail faster than you can say Martha Stewart, ladies and gentlemen. But for the elites like Pelosi, it's business as usual. And don't get me wrong, I understand full well this goes on in both parties. Nancy's husband, Paul, who's not even an elected official, has made trades with companies like Visa, Google, Tesla, right before major regulatory decisions or ballots and bailouts that Pelosi influenced. Coincidence, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think so. No way. And here's where the hypocrisy burns the hottest. The Democrats, like Pelosi, they love to lecture us on corporate greed or income inequality. She's out there pushing higher taxes on the wealthy, all the while her family builds a fortune that rivals the Kennedys. This is, as we always have seen from Pelosi, a prime example of rules for thee, but not for me. If a Republican were to do this, or if Donald Trump, the media would be screaming investigations 24/7. That's all we'd be hearing. But Pelosi, with this evidence and these numbers, crickets. Crickets from the left-wing elected class and crickets from the left-wing media. And it's not just a story about Pelosi's retirement. It can't be, not with this kind of information. It's a symptom of a deeper rot that's going on in Washington, D.C. We've got career politicians, something that the Founding Fathers never intended. These career politicians have turned public service into a personal ATM machine. Term limits, you bet. We need them yesterday. And we should be considering legislation that would put a ban on stock trading for all members of Congress and their families. Absolutely so, during their time in office. And what about some real transparency? Why aren't we hearing calls for requiring members of the elected class to put investments in blind trusts, for example? I mean, you know, you guys, until we drain the swamp, we keep seeing these multi-millionaire public servants laughing all the way to the bank. I mean, imagine, while Pelosi's portfolio exploded by 16,930%, what did the average American pay for gas? We had skyrocketing grocery bills, energy costs through the roof, and a national debt that's ballooning because of Pelosi's party and their reckless spending. She was speaker during the Obama years, just as an example, pushing through Obamacare, which is, of course, the reason they've shut down the government, the Democrats. Obamacare that jacked up the premiums of health insurance for millions of Americans, and she rammed through Administrator Biden's inflation-fueling Build Back Better. Remember that one? That was the supplement to what Obama called for when he said, America needs to be fundamentally transformed, which is the most anti-American statement any American president has ever made, ladies and gentlemen. America does not, thank you very much, need to be fundamentally transformed. What the hell does that supposed to mean anyway? He means away from the divine providence of God and away from the intent of the Founding Fathers, and we're seeing that being played out in real time from the radical left liberal wing of that party. So America needs to be fundamentally transformed, and how do we do that? We build it back better. What's left out of that phrase is what they intended for it to be: destroy, build back better, or fundamentally transform it. And then we'll build it back better. You see, there's a radical socialist communist thread of wanting to deconstruct America away from God and away from the Founding Fathers. But all the while, Pelosi's stocks in big pharma and green energy nonsense skyrocketed. I mean, is it any wonder why trust in government is at an all-time low? And don't get me wrong about success in the free markets. I'm all for it. But this is not free market capitalism that I'm talking about in terms of the Pelosi gains. This is what Pelosi has done is crony capitalism on steroids. Pelosi didn't invent the iPhone or built Tesla from scratch like Elon Musk did. She used her position of power to game the system, and it infuriates me. And I know there's many more besides her who do this. So as she rides off into the sunset with her new $280 million, who's left holding the bag? You know it. It's you and me, folks, the taxpayers. And we are funding her pension and her security detail in retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, don't you think that we should at least try to push for a full audit of congressional trades with the stock market? Or is it time to say good riddance to Pelosi and just focus on electing real conservatives who put America first? Stories like this are why we fight to rebuild and to reclaim this republic away from the radical liberals, to expose the double standards, and that we want to demand accountability. So in closing today, Nancy Pelosi's legacy, it's not just about being the first female speaker, la-di-da-di-da. It's about embodying the elite entitlement that's poisoning our republic. So as she goes off and quotes St. Francis about peace, let's remember that the real instruments of peace, honest leadership, fiscal responsibility, and a government that serves the people, not itself. That's the core of our republic, as intended by the founding fathers. And you'll notice, in closing, folks, they never refer to us, the Democrats, the Communist Socialists, they never refer to us as a republic. It's always a democracy. Well, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Our founding fathers had specific and very passionate debates about America not becoming a democracy. They don't say the word because they're under orders not to. You realize that, don't you? They're under orders not to say republic because it's the root word of Republican. And we have a Republican form of government in this nation that they detest, and they want to fundamentally transform by destroying us and building it back better, in their words, in their image. You and I, we the people, stand in the way of that. So let's be strong. Because after all, and as I say, ladies and gentlemen, we're in this together. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, Doug Billings. Hey, my good friends at EMP Shield, that's electromagnetic pulse, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri. Electromagnetic pulse could wipe out your home electrical system, could wipe out your vehicle. And thanks to the radical liberal agenda that was put forth under Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris, there are lots of people in this country who want to do us harm. And maybe an EMP device would be their chosen weapon. But EMP Shield gives you a device that can protect you. This little baby here goes on your home outlets, a computer, a router, whatever you want to protect. And then they also have a larger model like this. You can still hold it in the palm of your hand that goes on your vehicle battery so that you can get out of trouble from point A to point B. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug, ladies and gentlemen. Save yourself. Save your property. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.